Hello. Doing it. So we'll do that. Hassan, you see that it's just dropping in and out. We're just going to wait around for a moment for Gary. He's just off running about doing something. But welcome. Today is part 2, episode 2, I suppose, of what we were constructing as oneness, a journey of balances. So the balancing act in which we have to accomplish to be part of this, to be part of existence, to be part of not going crazy at a point in time where everything that you speak about is crazy. Okay? To those that can't legitimize it, because once the legitimizing has been done of self, then we're experiencing a different version, a different variation. So as we talk about topically, that transformational change, that element of being at one, being in a vibration that you can only justify. Oh, they put me on the big screen. A vibration that you can only justify. And basically, it's finding the other that is unique, meaning the alternative person, the variation, the community in which we find through this experience. Not all on the same path, not all are in the same moment to justify where they are as opposed to what you're thinking and what you're feeling. The balancing is majority of you. Balancing to be part of something new, something different, is what we've always done. So that's not any way changed. It's now the oneness that you find with the many variations of what you are. And I say the many variations of what you are because we've all had to do different roles and carry different hats or different labels. So genuinely, and not a lot of it is of self. Not a lot of it is experiencing that worthiness to remain within that current moment. That perspective of you being the writer of a story. We have many things that we can actually get inspired by and incited by. And the inspiration is what is you, the uniqueness of you. So you don't have to delve too far down the path to re-educate yourself. Hello, Amanda. It's more so the negotiation of what you already know to what now is not valid and what now holds no adjustment of self. So the balancing is the reflection, is that element of, wow, this sucks. It keeps dropping in and out. Are you there? There you are. All right. Well, it keeps dropping in and out, Gary. So I'm going to leave. I'm just going to say hello.
Okay.
I'm just going to leave and then come back in. And I was just introducing the element of balance and what we are in oneness as opposed to the community in which we find ourselves now.
Okay.
With a lot of variations to the stories of truth, of self.
Yeah. Wow.
And ultimately it's finding that uniqueness of your truth, so you don't have to look too far down a pathway to go, yeah, I already knew that.
Yeah, you don't have to go too far to find out that your worthiness is always within. You know, I think a lot of us are looking to find worthiness and acceptance by the group or by something that's really not in alignment with us. Okay, and this is where I think a lot of people are running astray. And what we find is that our essence of oneness is not in something that we find in the following. It's the essence that we find from within. You know, when you find balance from within, you start to see the power that you have, the power that you have of your heart, the power that you have of just opening your eyes. And a lot of us say we have our eyes open, but no, we don't. We're not seeing beyond the end of our noses. You might be seeing where you're walking, okay, but are you actually seeing with heart? And this is the essence of this quest of oneness, of wholesomeness. Your truth is from within, and the ability to walk in your truth is to stand strong to what you believe in. Even if it's a little bit of a mind fuckery at times. I mean, look, we make mistakes, right? But it's the ability to come back to you. Where are you in the here and now? In this very moment, I know where I am. Of course, if you look around me, well, you're in my water pond, so to speak. Okay? And you're sharing with me in an environment that's been created for purpose. It was created by love, pure and simple. It's frequency of the waterfalls, of the plants that are growing around me. It allows me to find this essence of, when I run amok in my mind, is that I come to heart. And this brings me to heart. You can't not be brought to heart by being involved and connected with nature. And I've met people, in fact, I was talking to a few people today that have never gone into a forest. I mean, like, how is that possible? How is it possible that you have not walked in a forest? And then the ones that I'm talking to saying their first experience, and they were petrified. They were scared of everything. Well, why are you scared of a tree? To be honest with you, the human beings that were walking down the street, the ones that are, whatever, we're not going to go down that gamut. But there's reason there to have fear. Okay,
Well,
but
that's where it is, isn't it, sir? It's that
yep.
story. It's the whole story. Listening to some other story. Listening to a story that you have not generated of your own opinion, of the own uniqueness of the journey that you've served.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's all we're doing ultimately to ourselves, is serving ourselves to have the best experience, to be within living peace. And now there is a confusion like no other that is put upon every living person on this planet to make a decision on what really humanity means. And from the dialogue of what humanity is driven by and written by, we've got a 0 to Buckley's in none chance of getting through this smoothly. Because
yeah,
go on.
No, I hear where you're coming from this. This decision that's being thrown upon the peoples is taking us away from the truth of heart. It definitely is. Okay, we're going into full open. So as of July 1st here in Alberta, everything is dropped. No requirements for masks, no requirements for this, no requirements for, everything's opened up. The Stampede is opened up. The Heritage Festival's opened up. There's festivals coming out of our yin yang, opening up every which way and loose. Okay, and it's this. How can I explain? It's like opening up a corralled gate of cattle that have been fed mule feed, and now we've opened up the gates and he said, "Here's a green pasture." And the hesitation to step out of the gate is the majority, and the ones that step out are in total chaos in the sense because they're in the battle. They're in the battle facing the ones that have. I don't even want to say it. It's just malarkey.
We don't have to talk about it. Like we don't have to talk about that. We don't have to talk about the abundance of people that are changing, because even within those abundance of people that are seeing a shifting of perception, they're shifting their own perception.
Yeah.
Wow, that's not a corral of cattle. That is like the gates have been left open for a couple of days and these people have just wandered off. They've just run out of the yards, and there's no focus nor clarity in regards to what opportunity they have been given. What is present in front of them to just stop everything in its entirety. The whole thought process of how we do things.
That is the whole. That's the whole of it, Adrian. We have been shown given an opportunity to turn around and change something that we already know is in the wrong. And yet we're running out the gates and we're still doing the same thing. We're talking the story, but we're still doing the same thing.
You said the word wrong. You used the word wrong. Yeah, wronged. We have been wronged as a civilization of humanity. We have been wronged. We have been sold a lemon of a car. And that is our identity. Because we had to fight to accomplish everything.
Mm-hmm.
Everything that you can have within your place of well-being, you've had to fight for. Not literally meaning to fists. Some for others have fought to get to the places that they need to be. Chased.
Yep.
The journey to find the material abundance of self. So then you can take the foot off the pedal and go, oh wow, I've got this now, I got that now, I got this now, I got that now. What else is there? Wow. Okay, keep paying that off until all of that's done, and then look at what else is there, because that's not going to create any scope of inclusion as you're still going on a chase of their design.
Yep.
You talk about the people in the forest. There's people that don't listen to music. There are people that don't understand what a bird can do or a pet can do. Yeah. There is that many lost people that are now finding a different perception, that they're ultimately lost again because they're shifting into a space that is only going to devastate them even more.
Yeah.
We're a year into a space where we were talking about Jasara and Nasara being the balance and equality of life. Yeah. And it was remotely imminent to approach or to be inserted into the normal mainstream of society, because the illusions of the banks being in reform and contempt and being all taken out of the equation, the world banks have now been taken over by the Saint Germain Trust. These are all spaces that hold truth in a moment of time where truth can be accepted by an abundance of people. So it doesn't imbalance that whole equation. You're talking about 40-degree days. Now, this is something that's not science-driven. It's more so energy. It's more so an interpretation of what energy can do, given what we are as an identity versus energy on the planet. So if you've got all of these people that are in fear, all of these people that are in pain, okay, that can create some really devastating situations. You just have to go to a party where you were talking, where you were with a group of people, and then another group of people came in, and their energy was completely different and threw and upheavaled the party in its entirety. Yeah. So the energy of what they brought into the party versus what the party held was too much. So then the party just became chaos. Now just think of that in regards to this whole gamut of what we are as an identity and what we are as little small community, the fractions in which fractions upon fractions in which we are, meaning the smallest communities, the smallest clubs, the smallest venues are all grieving fear. They're all speaking about fear.
Yeah.
Not in its entirety, but as a scope of what they are able to create in a conversation, it's orientated around fear. So if all of that in energy is just being put into this vortex and equation of what we are, you're going to have, we've had 40-degree days for the last 20 years in Victoria. Yeah. And throughout Australia, it's been 100 years.
Oh,
but even in that, nothing. We go back to what I was saying, Gary, about the element of finding the self to change, because it's only you that changes. Nothing else changes. The world changes when everybody else changes.
If we look at the evolution of life, let's come a little little deeper into this essence of oneness and coming back to, the understanding of who we are. That's a key, understanding who we are. There isn't a book, okay, that says who we are. This is every book that's been written has been written from the perspective of one person or a group of people. Again, it's what their perspective, their truths are. This process of where we are and where we're going and where we're evolving to is not about what the books and the yesterday's stories is going to teach us. Okay, we got to throw this away, because these stories, these teachings still set precedent for what the heart is trying to see, but the mind is overpowering. Okay, because there's so much mind fuckery going on, there's so much panic going on, there's so much fear mongering going on, that the mind is taking so much space that you're not evolving, you're not living. In fact, the majority of you are not even breathing. Okay, and I'm addressing the audience on that case. I mean, because between you and me, we know where we are, we know where we're standing, we know what we see, and we've kept strong to our truths, even with all of the controversy that we've been faced upon. And the people that, are at first there with you, and then all of a sudden they're not, because it's not fitting with the story that they believe in. And the essence of what we're seeing in the truths, what we see is what I see in truth and heart. And the best example I can give you of that is a young lady that came over today with a 2-year-old child. And to see that 2-year-old child run in this garden and find a strawberry and see her eyes light up like it was the biggest gift in the world. The child is showing us the innocence of the inner child within us that we all have. The inner child that speaks through our heart. To enjoy life, to enjoy that moment of where we are. So connected to where she was, everything else was impervious, was strawberries. And off on the adventure she went. This essence of this adventure, and I could see the child as at first was reluctant, and all of a sudden just open up, just so broad and so eyes wide open, just like, I got to see everything. Everywhere she was looking, I got to see more, I got to see more, I got to see more. And still playing, the aspect, I mean, she's a 2-year-old. I mean, she's a little human growing and seeing something for the first time that she's never seen.
Experiencing it, like
experiencing it
in its where it comes from. Like she would have seen a strawberry before, because she would have seen it on some iPad or phone or something like that, to what it looks like in an education forum, because her parents would have been all up on that, because every parent is.
Yeah.
But to see it there growing, firstly, is that innocence. And you speak of innocence, and that is where everybody is trying to find, but struggling to locate, because they're not accepting that they don't have to find it. They just have to switch off from being an adult for a moment.
Exactly. Yeah. I had, and it's so much beautiful amongst all of this hot heat today. There was the beautiful things that were happening in the conversations. The client that I'm building a very special backyard space for her to, do her ceremonies and, have her connection with her earth, or her form of earthing in the form of medicine that she offers. And the conversation that we had, and the emotional conversation, and this, here goes my emotions. This acknowledgement that my presence has been helping her journey. And I had a hard time, finding acceptance with this, because I'm not doing it to find recognition. I mean, that's me. But I'm finding that it's just coming. And then last night I did an earthing grounding ceremony here. And to see a woman that had fear of men be surrounded with a majority of men lose that fear, because the men that were present were of oneness. We were balanced in a sense that we had the respect of self. We had the respect of the person that was within our presence. And at the end of it, her tears and her thanks and all we did was curate space. Okay, a little bit of some magic from Gaia's garden and a little bit of Sentinel's pine tea and things like this, but it was the whole essence of showing that we stand together. You know, as one, being oneness doesn't mean that I'm separated from the rest of the world. I have a great love of humanity. In fact, I truly love humanity. But humans, sometimes they're not being as human as they can because they're not seeing what the actual essence of being a human is and the gifts that we've been given. We've been given some unbelievable power. And the power is not what's coming through the mind, it's coming through the heart. This ability to love regardless if you get hurt. To love again is to grow, to
Yeah.
strengthen, and to show
And
that how much you can heal with this.
of course, and that is a great inclusion of the mind in the role that it plays. The mind only needs to believe. That's it. If you tell yourself each day that you love yourself, the mind is telling itself that, oh, well, I love myself. Because when a representation comes and somebody asks, do you love yourself? Yep, yep, yep. Easy to answer. So if you really want to heal and you want a confusion to go and you want the chaos to just dissipate away and watch it, in one moment to just actually just be flushed down the toilet or just wash away in a shower, you can make it happen. Your visualization of being able to intuitively know that you're not doing this to hurt yourself. You're not doing this to do anything other than be free to a point of you understanding you. Because that's what we're all reflecting on now. What am I? Who am I? Where am I? Why am I?
That what's my purpose? Why
Correct.
am I here? You know, all of
Correct.
this.
Because we do not believe or have any faith within self to actually justify the actions in which we take, which are changing the very fabric in which we are. And
If I look at, sorry,
okay.
Yeah, see what happens when two like-minded souls come together. We got so much to say that we're like, okay, this essence of this connection of oneness, you know, the understanding of oneness. It is not something that a book has taught me. It is not something that a teacher has taught me. It has been my experiences of life that basically forced me to look within, to see that I don't need to hold on to my yesterday's story. And it was turned off like this. The longer I hold on to that story of yesterday, the longer I'm not living. I'm just functioning. You know, I'm going through the motions of the day-to-day routine. You know, wake up, go to work, come home, have something to eat maybe, you know, and then go and spin my mind out of control about what happened yesterday, what happened 5 minutes ago, what happened 5 years ago. Until you click that story off, you will not evolve. There is no way that you will evolve into the essence of oneness unless you do not end your story.
Let's use the word separate, because we have to separate first.
Yeah.
We have to see the division in which the mind and the heart is. So once we see that separation, we can then make that executive decision upon ourselves to commit to the change by making those incremental changes within our own self to see the bettering of a journey. And like, that's not everything you said was absolutely perfect and correct, because the understanding of oneness gives you the ability to take the ridicule of what the mind does within that condemning effect and actually acknowledge that it's doing it at that moment. And to get on a good track, like an affirmation, the things that we say, the simple inclusion firstly, and then you finish up by saying an affirmation or however you tell yourself that you love yourself, is to first simply illustrate in a moment you might be on a toilet. We're given a moment of silence. You might turn around and say, I was born Adrian into this time. And I know that there have been many variations to the Adrian that sits here now. But in the understanding of why I had to journey through that to experience the validity of me, I am then able to negotiate that I remain within this truest pathway of least resistance for me to be within living peace.
Exactly.
And that's a little prayer that you can make up for yourself. Just to say it once, to acknowledge that worthiness of when you have a moment, what your heart voice really needs to and wants to say.
You said something, a key phrase, the path of least resistance. And the path of least resistance is that path of the unknown. Because the path that is known is part of the program. So we're still in a sense of resistance because of the program that we've been taught to believe in. That unknown path offers us an opportunity to be free, to walk into the unknown, to be totally encompassed in the experience of life as it evolves. That's the path of least resistance. For me, that's how I see it. If I walk the same path, I'm walking a path that I'm still walking the obstacles. Because I know it better. I've had the experience. I can scoot around it. Okay, but I'm still chosen to, walk that same path. That path of self-sabotage in many ways. Because we have the choice. You cannot deny it. That if you're holding on to your story of yesterday, you've chosen to hold on to that story. You've chosen to wallow in the story of the traumas, of the trials, of the triviations, of all of this. And then you're blaming yourself, or you're feeling guilty, or you're feeling not worthy. Okay? You can turn this off in a microsecond. All you have to do is say, that's it, it's over. You have the choice. The memory can still be there. But the memory is the tool of the wisdom. This is wisdom gained that has now taught me something. I do not wish this in my life. So if I do not wish it in my life, I stay true to myself and I walk that path in the unknownness because I'm experiencing life. Life is unknown. Every second coming forward, I don't know which way that leaf is going to turn. I don't know which way the winds are going to go. I can guesstimate, but it's still an uncertainty. It's
Of
not.
course, but adding to that, it doesn't need to be fearful. Because
No.
in that recognition of everything that you have accomplished and everything that has happened to you in the memory in which you speak of, as you assimilate to the very identity of a newest version, because this oneness element is a newer version of you. It is an upgrade of you in the awareness of what you now have, as that separation has come into that space of recognition. So therefore, the memory that was knowledge is now wisdom, because it's actually created that oneness element to say, I see where I went wrong doing that.
Yeah, because now I own it.
Exactly.
Key.
Exactly.
Key is
And
I own that choice.
The forgiveness that comes with that, because this is all part of the balancing act, as you know, right? That ability to negotiate simultaneously in the now the other version of you, because as you open the floodgates of assimilation or oneness or the experiencing of self, you then open up the floodgates to all of the negotiations that are those chords in which we spoke about last week that are still connected. So then you do that element of dark night of the soul, or whatever they call it again, to process you remaining within that space of love and light.
You
Peace
know
is
what?
the equation of that.
There's something that it's a pet peeve of mine. And it's all of these acronyms or short descriptives, the dark night of the soul,
Oh, yeah.
the shadow work, the ridding of your demon, all of these semi-pessimistic half negatives that is
Correct.
still pulling me into something that if I just stop, reflect, breathe, and I take in this breath and I say, where am I? What am I feeling? What is my trigger? I don't need a psychologist or a psychiatrist to tell me what my triggers are because I'm not
No,
part of the group. I'm an
exactly.
individual, and every individual is unique. And it's in the uniqueness of our individuality where we find our oneness that now we start to see the power of unity. Because as I'm walking as in my oneness, in my heightened sense of spirituality and my spiritual consciousness, I'm attracting those that are searching for the same thing, that are ready to experience this, that are ready to say, you know what, I've had enough of the mind fuckery. I've had enough of the programs. I've had enough of all of this. Help. Well, I can't help you, but I can show you a path. Just don't follow my path because it's my path. It's not about ego. It's my path has taught me a certain learning. And I can't expect somebody to say, well, you know what, this is how it is. No, how it is being with you in the very instance of the moment. And this essence of presence says, okay, now I have a choice. My heart has spoke. Am I going to listen to my heart, or I'm going to allow my analytical mind to analyze and paralyze? And one of the phrases that I like to refer to in this essence of being over analytical is that the first four letters of analyze or analytics is ANAL. Where's your head? You've shoved it up your own rear end so much you cannot see through your own shit. Sorry to say it that way, but that's what it is. You've allowed the shit of your yesterdays to accumulate. You're now over analyzing it. You're paralyzed in the moment. The anxiety rises, the fear rises, and then guess what? Huh, you're lost. But you're not really as lost as you think you are because your heart's still trying to speak to you. Your heart's still saying, you know what? If you cannot say it through voice that you love me, I'm going to tell you and I'm going to make you feel it. Now it's a choice as whether or not you want to accept it. Do you want to accept love of self? It's not just I see myself in the acknowledgement that I love myself, is that are you in acceptance of the love of self? Or are you still stopping at your imperfections? Are you still stopping at your, I aged another year rather than, you know what, age gracefully? Or are you trying to plastify yourself? Are you trying to change and make yourself look what you were 20 years ago and find out that now you don't look like anything that you are supposed to look like? Anyways, that's a whole other rabbit hole. Okay, I can go into that one unbelievably, and
Well,
see it.
look, in that duality, that separation, the identities in which were carried in the former of this life, even representing potentially past lives.
Yeah.
We all toy and fabricate different spaces so we feel at ease with ourselves. Through this whole journey, the pathway of least resistance is showing you the magnificence in which you are already born. Because it's representing the very moment of breath. It's representing the very moment of you having a form of clarity that will create an intuition
Mm-hmm.
connection that will just bypass every other element of thought. Because the appreciation of your method to your uniqueness is what is not written, is what is not told.
Mm-hmm.
Because that then just illustrates the living peace quality that is attributed to the monks of the world and the historical elements of philosophy for the evolution of change. There is no restriction within the pathway of least possible resistance because it is unknown. It is
Yeah.
confident because you have already traveled it, as it is within the realm of what you already represent. There is nothing that you are not 1 second away from at any point of time. That is each and every one of you. You're not 1 second away from death, 1 second away from ultimate joy. It is only a decision that you are supposed to feel through this. The experience of feeling is something that has not been negotiated to the degree of what is able to be deciphered as real or something that is delusional. They've done a good job at maintaining things of enthusiasm to reflect upon feeling. But in the reality of nothing, the feeling of everything at that same time is something that you can only indicate with you, nobody else. And the perfect space of having that as the paramount buffer for each and every one of us is when you first wake up in the morning and you know that you have had a good sleep, or you have gone to bed, and as you hug yourself and you admit and say to yourself, a good night, I love you, that contentment, that nurturing element that we all require, that mothers gave us, that carers gave us, that lovers gave us, is ultimately felt. So therefore it's carried into that representation of the next waking moment. It was carried through the night slumber and the travels in the night slumber. It changes the very vibration of you over that period of you being at ease with no restriction.
You just opened up something, and just a thought that just popped into my mind. And from a man's perspective, and I'm going to speak on behalf of myself, one of the greatest privileges that I have in life is the ability to appreciate the presence of a woman in recognition of the person that I am. And what I mean by that is that it's not, the fishing game. It's the ability that a hug from a woman is a memory. It's a memory that takes me back to my mother because it's real and it makes me feel welcomed and it empowers me. So I'm in this state of acceptance of the love that's being offered from just the simplicity of a hug. And whether it's a man or a woman, I equally feel this. But there is a little bit more, I'm not the word prestige. I don't know if that's the right word. Honor. This honor of the caress or the hug of a woman that says, I remember my mother. But I also remember my mother that I'm walking upon. My mother Earth, this planet. Because she offers me the same love that my mother did. In fact, you and I can probably go into a whole gamut of discussion on, the birds and the flowers and the bees and, the animal worlds and the aves and the mammals and everything. And the importance that it plays in our own humanity. A majority of...
It definitely does, but they're on hold at the moment because they are surviving in the capacity of what they have been given. And it is our role and responsibility to maintain that exists by simply fixing self. Because the moment that we fix self to the element of clarity, everything that is needed in that world, in that Gaia, in that representation of sustainability is paved forward. It's offered in abundance. But at this point in time now, the biggest element that is really needing to be negotiated is the element of living peace within self. Not
wholeheartedly.
Not the justification of I know this and you don't know that. Or this is going to happen, therefore that's going to happen. All present notions that you are forgetting that will result within a space of reality because we have spoken about it for so long. Therefore, another indicator as to why this whole atrocity of 45-degree days, blah, blah, immense weather patterns, all indicators of energy that has been just let go to be negated electronically or however it works in relation to making something sustainable, making something present, making something happen. So Our inability is the biggest thing that is stopping us at the moment. And that inability is to respect that we are going through a magnitudinal change relevant to self. Nothing else. Only self. No religion, no politics, nothing. No education. It is all on reliance of what we can feel in the negotiation as we go through this period of time being so flippant, so quick in a representation of reality. Days are just fleeting by. And we're all in the same echo chamber, all in the same bubble.
I've heard time and time again people the same comment. Where did the month go? Where did the last 6 months go? Where did the day disappear to? Or the time that was, the notion of time is changing. And as you said, and we're opening up, some touchy subjects in the sense of the energy and the cosmos and what's going on in the cosmic energy. We're focused on really in the essence of where we are in the here and now on this earth, but there's a great influence that's coming from the suns, from the stars, the cosmos, the shifts. Everything is evolving. There's a great universal universal I don't like using the word dimensionals because we attach it to, well, I'm 5D and 6D, and it's like, yeah, you know what? I've had enough of that. Okay, it's
So
beyond
let's
that.
just put it as this: there's a transformational change that is relevant to everything that we might consider of some support within our space of existence. Meaning that the universe in its retrogrades and ascensions and their energy movement has created some validity of us evolving, changing, relevance to shifting and stuff like that. So it's a transformation. It's a transformational episode that we are still needing to reflect upon only self, because everything that is doing that is in the support of this experience.
I can see that. I just saw a comment. Sydney had put up a comment about is it possible that people are enjoying more the moment? That's a
Yeah.
I think it's a double-edged sword, because in one way we've been forced by the lockdown to really look at balancing ourselves in the space that we're allowed to function in. And so there's one of two things that's going to happen. One, you're either going to find a way to make it joyful, or it's going to be a prison. And in many cases, and I think the majority of the people that at least in my surroundings, is the majority of it is in prison, because they're still in this confinement of not wanting to look within themselves. They want to look into another to give them an answer to, what they already had the answer for. And that answer that they have within them is simply look in the mirror. Forget about anything else, but just look at yourself in the mirror and acknowledge yourself for the human that you are. Don't go too far. Keep it simple. And the simplicity of it is that, regardless of my exterior, it's who I am from within my interior, my heart, my beliefs, my willingness and longing to create this unity and this peacefulness. I choose now, and more as I'm going forward, my choice is, do I engage or do I disengage? I choose to engage with what is uplifting and positive and forming outlooks or forming ideas that can allow us to take it to a next level, take it to a better understanding. And I choose to disengage from everything that's pessimistic and everything that's negative and aggressive and overbearing and ego driven. If you're
Oh, I don't know what happened then. He'll be back. I see it quite the same. I see it as a platform for those to be able to step freely upon, to be able to justify that they are going through a change, that they are going through a transformation to better themselves. So everything that is attributed to all of that ego, all of that chaos, all of that mindset, it just falls away. There's little remnants of it as you remain within that platform, within that space of solitude, within that place of abundance of finding self. But in the reality of the quality of experiencing the journey with the attachment or the engagement or disengagement, that happens every waking moment, that you are putting yourself out there within that space, because it is many stories. It's many, 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 many stories that are relevant to the uniqueness of each person now. Their opinion is more so validated by their experiencing, by their journey, their knowledge that they carry, something that's always there, that's never gone away. It's just a different story. It's a different engagement of negotiation, because your vibration is the biggest quality of your life. Nothing else. The vibration that you choose to reside within. And that is a choice of whether or not you're going to be a dick, or you're going to be somebody going to be a nice person. I don't know what happened.
Technology.
Yeah. I was just following up in the same regards that the indicator of disengagement or engagement is in every person's life. And if they're focused on what they're journeying through now, then they're feeling that disengagement or engagement that they're going through during the reflection.
True.
But for those that aren't even thinking of that, it's whether or not you're being a dick, or you're being just a normal, genuine person that knows that they have failed, that knows that they are flawed, and then are representing in the truest element of peace. Not to justify an opinion of this is this and this is that.
Mm-hmm.
It's more so to see the relevance of, are you okay? How are things going? Because the vibration of you is felt by everybody else before they even see you. So
yeah, if they're attuned, there's the cases and many cases of that, Adrian, that they're not going to feel you.
Yeah, they feel you. Doesn't matter whether or not they're right or wrong. It's just everybody will feel the energy of somebody, whether or not they sit with you and have a beer. It's whether or not they're in that same vibration. And if they're not, they'll more than likely pour a beer over your head.
Well, so, if you're going to do that with me, I'm just going to make sure I'm going to turn so I can catch it at the right point.
That's it. Give me a heads up.
Yeah.
But that's how it's always been. That's how it's always That's how it always will be. Whilst people are not shifting to the equation that everybody fucked up, even their own self.
Yep.
And as they realize the fuck-ups of self, or the failings of self, or the flaws, or the misgivings, or however you politely want to put it, you then recognize that everybody else is in the same place.
Yep.
So if you see somebody going down that pathway and the resistance that they've got in their vibration is alerting you to disengage.
Yeah.
If it's alerting you to engage and be sympathetic of knowing that we've all fucked up, and maybe they might just need to shift in a vibrational perception, one increment. That's all you need to validate. That your opinion is therefore deemed valid because you are not trying to incite anybody. You're inspiring them to say, hey, you're nearly there. Just feel this now.
Yeah.
Because element of that tiring element, that draining of this is this and this is that, and I did this and I did that, and oh my God, oh, where we at, and blah, 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 blah. You can't do that.
Yeah.
That's not credible for self.
It's not credible for anything, and it's not a solution. All it is feeding it. And the more you feed it, the more that it grows. If we look at it, if we look at the masses where the anxiety and the fears have been set in is because we're feeding the same, like you said, it's their fault, is this, is that, we keep going on and on and on and on, where rather than maybe waste your breath on this, have you maybe stopped back and reflected to self and said, maybe there is a better way? Maybe I can use my verbos more empowering, more powerful. I can still point out the raw truth, the brunt truth, but I can also deliver it in a way that is non-demeaning and non-aggressive and non-blaming, because we've all had a part in it. We've all, no matter how evolved we are, no matter how spiritually evolved I am, how much I'm in with my oneness, it's my journey that I've had a part in a lot of what is happening today. Yeah, it's a small part, but there's 7 billion people today have a small part. It's turned into a pretty massive fucking problem when we look at it. So this essence of coming back to, disengaging from the pessimism, the negativity, the aggressivity. Okay, stand strong with your voice, no problem. But don't come at me with your voice with ego and blaming me for something, or saying that it's a part of, or saying that, it's because I don't care. I'm so full of myself. I've had that comment. It's like, you're so in love with yourself, you're full of yourself. Like, really? Nah, I'm not full of myself. Not yet. I will be when I take my last breath. Because when I take my last breath, my vessel will no longer be here. And now I will be full. Because I will be fully in the essence of the spiritual laws and the evolution of love and the frequency of love. Because there is no ego. Definitely not. And this ability to see this essence of life with no fear. I'm at a point in my life, I have no fear. Absolutely none. Even if I think I was standing on the edge of a cliff, my knees might bolt a little bit, but I'm not fearful of the end result, because I know where I will be if this vessel has departed. So it's the ability to have no fear to force change, no
Well,
fear to stop off of the,
yeah,
walk on the unknown path.
exactly. And that element, and that's the equation of how we talk versus what we do.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah.
And the element of fear, people go, oh, I've never been fearful in my life. Yeah. I've always represented this and always represented that. Yeah, because you've been at the top of your game in a storyline where people needed to be at the top of their game, therefore there'd be no fear.
Yeah.
But what about if that was all flipped on its ass and everything that you actually built was torn down and taken away, and then you've got nothing? What is that? Where does element of fear lie within that space of
Mm.
change? Are you
If
able to? Do you have a fear of change? That's the only fear that we need to speak about, because the rest of the negotiation of fear, however that is delivered, is only under the interpretation of what we presend or someone has present within our vibration. And always remaining within a constance of that moment, being able to reflect simultaneously as you're
mm-hmm,
going through and experiencing that journey. The
mm-hmm.
element of fear is only negotiated with the conversation in which is being had.
One, I think there was something to just in the conversation that you were bringing up here is that there was a key word that came up, and in the sense that the understanding of not having fear, if you have lost everything and rebuilt, you understand a lot about what the essence is of no fear. Because if you lost everything and decided to stay down in the dust, well, you're not listening to us right now. Okay. But if you've lost everything and regained to bring yourself back up again, your understanding is that you own your story, but you also acquired courage. And this courage is this element that rules out fear. Because once you've lost everything, you start to see how worthless it is, how less of importance it is. Because the greatest a part of the importance, and I speak from personal story, not losing everything once, but losing everything a number of times. Okay? And restarting again. And restarting to rebuild in the essence of what is important. For me, it's simple. What's important for me is the ability to be free, to have my freedom to breathe, my freedom to experience, my freedom to, relearn to love again. Because I understand love of life and love of humanity. There's no doubt there. But love of a fellow human being, well, you know what? You get hit a couple of times, you start to pull back from it. You start to lose a little bit of your trust in other humans. Because the majority of humans don't understand what it is to have this complicity in the essence of wanting to be with somebody in a relationship, or wanting to be in a professional relationship, or wanting to simply be a better person. And it's not until we grasp that aspect that you don't need another. You need yourself. And that's the only way you're going to walk forward with that, with the essence of no fear, because now you've welcomed yourself. You've accepted yourself in your entirety. Hopefully. Even if you have imperfections.
Well, and you can't discredit that when you go through this experience, the feeling that you get, that you've seen this before, that you've heard this before, that you've felt this before. You've got to actually hear that. You've got to acknowledge that that's coming forward. And that's attuning. That's you attuning to you, the best representation of you. Because as you commit faith of belief, the belief in which you have that you are doing this under the negotiation of your change, then the experience that's been had for years ago, thousands of years ago, from when you were last there, when you did whatever you did before, they step forward. And you've got to have the belief that that is you in a version of you. But that is that giving up. That is that letting go. That is acknowledging that in this lifetime, everything that you have seen physically and witnessed is only an element for you to make that executive decision now, whether or not you want to continue.
Yeah.
Or shift into something that you know is more of you.
If I look at where we're going in this, I see all the beauty that's coming forward. In all due respect, out of all of the gray clouds that are out there, I still see the beauty. And where I see the beauty is, I go back to the story of this evening where this little child, and the essence of how she saw this strawberry. That, for me, shows to me to have strength and belief and have more hope, because that's the future. And this little child, extremely awoke. For 2 years old, unbelievable. I was trying to reflect back at my age instead of, at 2 years old, what was I like? Was I as awakened as the children are today? And I don't think I was. I don't honestly think I was, because there wasn't the mindfuckery that we have in today's world. And it's through this essence of this.
Hey, the same thing applies, all right? The same thing applies. When you were first earning your wage, it was nothing than what you would be earning now. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's a whole other ball of wax, eh?
In a money orientation, though. Yeah. My first apprentice's wage, my hourly rate was nothing that I can accumulate now. Or even in relevance to what an apprentice gets now to what I got back then, it's not even comparable. But in the relevance of all of that. So in technology, it's also the same. The suppression of innocence is also the same dynamic which all of these children are facing. Because that they're inundated with a vibration that no one's talking about. So therefore there is no awareness of. So if that vibration is simply just to create a mundane society by that blanket that they spread over everybody, that same applies. That you were as woke as you needed to be as a 2-year-old then.
Yeah.
She is as woke as she needs to be as a 2-year-old now. The representation of what is the man-made function to suppress all of that has just been extended. That's why I use the money element, because it's just been heightened with more now a technology constructed environment, and they know how to suppress us through that sound technology as well as eating. Not to say that she's not going to save the world, because each and every person has that representation to be able to.
Every person, every human that walks on the face of the earth right now has the ability to save the world, even if it's a small dent. If we get 100,000 people, 1 million people, 1 billion people making a small dent, it makes a big fucking impact. Okay, and I think this is where we're going, and I'm seeing this going forward. Is that people are, you're either fed up with what you've been experiencing over the last 18 months, 24 months, and maybe even longer. Okay, because in all due respect, this 18 months, it's been a nightmarish story. But when I look at my age, it's been 60 years. I've been seeing sort of the same old scenarios just rehashing themselves out. It's just amplified because of critical mass thinking and critical situations that are before us at the moment. We've talked about this before in some of our previous discussions. It was at 3 years, 6 months ago. Now we're at 2.5 years. 2.5 years to make new change. If not, well, the change that will come is going to force a change one way or another. And I think this is where we're starting to, hopefully a majority of us are starting to waken up and search the truth in the answers. Because the answers that have been given to us right now are not the answers that we're needing to hear. What we're needing to hear is that the answers come from heart. And the way that we see this can be in the essence of everything around us. And if we do not get the essences coming from heart, we are still going to be in the same mindfuckery for the next 2.5 years.
Okay, the next 30 years. This conflict will last that long. This conflict will last that long if people do not shift to change. If they fear, as we spoke about, if they fear change, and the change is them. You spoke about 100,000, 1 million, 1 billion people. If 100,000 people started to tell themselves at the night time that they love themselves, or during the day,
oh my God, can you imagine?
Shift in that change, you then see that shift. You start to see a movement of empowerment, and that's what it's coming to now. It's the complete disempowerment of why ego still resides within the common fabric of society, because it's only sorry,
okay.
go on.
Sorry, no. Go. Continue.
No,
my apologies.
I was going to say it's only an empowered ego that is sitting atop a high-story building now, justifying their pay wage. There is no sympathetic, humane person running a massive organization that is able to shift by that inclusion of that "I love you" in a marketing engagement. So it can be.
Can you actually? I mean, honestly, just a question.
Yeah.
Do you see any of these large so-called corporations being able to shift into that frequency? Honestly?
At the moment,
frequency of love?
No. At the moment, no. 12 months from now, I think you will see about 30%. 30% of that large identity start to shift into that vibration, knowing that the only way that they will exist is because of truth. And if they're not facing their truth from a board level, they won't exist. Because in the next year, in the next 18 months, all of your banking institutions are going to be mainstream headlines because of the laundering from many levels that we would not.
God, yeah. Adrian, I spent half of my, not half of my, close to half of my life, 20, almost 30 years in the IT industry. And the latter part, the latter 15 years was in the financial stock markets and stock exchanges and supporting of the money market. And what I saw appalled me. Every day it appalled me. It fought against my morals because I was seeing what the companies were doing behind the scenes. Because I was privileged to seeing this information. Because I was the security IT consultant, I was installing the security systems, I was installing their what we call the hoot and holler circuits and all of this. So privileged to hearing it, seeing it, emails, and 9/11 changed my life. Because at that point, I said, no more. I will no longer be a part of this. I will not be the one that keeps their machines running while they fuck the world. Okay? Because that's truly what it was.
Well, yeah. Yeah, go on. Sorry.
No, yeah, one of the last things that I saw at that, what really finished me, was walking into a money distribution plant where they make money out of thin air, basically. And robots pick it up and pile it high on bricks, and in a 40,000 square foot warehouse that had 30-foot ceilings, this money, printed money, was sitting on pallets to the ceiling. Unbelievable. And out the front door was a man on the corner of the street looking for 25 cents to buy a coffee.
It's funny. And I say it's funny because in my experience of this life, you see things that are symbolic that create that element of shifting or change so easily, so very easily, because you've actually witnessed it, you've felt it, you've experienced it. And then you go on through and pick yourself up and do it again. And you find another inclusion to the atrocity of suppression that comes across your pathway again. So therefore you then disengage and you step back and lose it, play it, whatever it may be. But when you sit in that element of reflection and you see that everything that you have done has been that pathway to show you consistently and momentarily as well that your worth is not driven by anything that you do. It is the way that you are able to maneuver through that engagement to see whether or not you are relevant to be experiencing this in its fullest dynamic now. Because and that is a huge element of letting go, that whatever you knew was nothing. Absolutely nothing. And whatever you spoke was absolute rubbish.
Yeah.
Right? That's every one of us.
I think one of the greatest phrases I use is when somebody says, "McGarry, you're so intelligent," and I keep on, you know what? No, I don't know anything. I just have experience. I just have experience. Yeah, Adrian, we're gonna continue this series, this discussion, okay? Because when these hours, we can go on and on and on and on. So our next live, I really will keep with the same subject, keep with the same discussions, because there's much more to to discuss about it as well. And going forward, I think what I'm seeing from the comments is that this is what they need. We can pick all sorts of subjects left and right, but I think staying with the essence of oneness, we're helping. At least I hope we're helping people find essence and truth. Because
this is the pathway of least resistance, man.
There we go.
It's the pathway of least resistance. So why aren't we talking about it? The element of the many loads that we have to balance, the many variations to self. If we find the key word of what that is that influences the audience, then that's something that they engage on. They can reflect on. We've given them the next time they're sitting on the toilet, they can say to themselves that they acknowledge whatever this is. Like I said earlier, wherever it may be, it's going to be comical, whatever it is.
In a moment with self and silence on the grand throne, you get to reflect a little bit. So grunt and groan and accept yourself.
That's exactly it. That's exactly it. And know that everything that you've done has been for a reason.
Yeah.
And that reason is to be right here, right now, to understand those simple words. You don't have to go on and say, but why does it mean that I did this and now I'm here and doing this? Who gives a rat's ass? Who seriously gives a rat's ass? You're here now and you did that. So if it means something, we'll take the time and engage on it, but don't reflect on that for too long. Acceptance that you are stepping into the best version of you. And when I say the best, I only mean the most pure and the most clear. Yeah? Your lifestyle is still your lifestyle. If you eat 40 kebabs a month or a week or whatever, and you drink 10 gallons of soda pop, then let's talk about well-being. But this is
you might not be, if you're drinking that much soda pop, I don't know if you're going to be about well-being. You might be
a month. My God, I don't know. But don't lose. There's many things that we need to engage with. There's many things that you need to actually categorize within oneself to acquire oneness. Don't let that be intimidating, because you've already done it before. The moment that you actually acknowledge, oh my God, is that what that means? So just give yourself a little bit of actual pat on the back, reprieve, and be gentle. Be gentle, because the rest of the world is there to be arrogant at this point in time.
That's politely putting it.
Yeah.
Last words, my friend. What have you got for the audience tonight?
I just think I added those last words.
There you go.
Yeah. And tomorrow night I'm trying out something new. It's called Worth a Thought. So I'm just going to do half an hour worth a thought along the same lines. It's all about peace architecture. It's all about living.
Beautiful.
So yeah, I'll start doing that and continuing with this. But if you guys want to leave feedback, if you guys want to leave anything in regards to questions that you might have, please do not hesitate, because we say it each week. We're happy to engage, to bring you into a vibration of change that is reflective of your best.
Adrian, you're a beautiful man. You truly are. And I've said it probably a number of times, but I have a great deal of respect for you, and I love you as a human being. I truly do. And it's a pleasure to have these conversations with you and see that, we are making an impact. Even if it's only one person, we're making an impact. And to the audience, I have just a little bit to say. Look at the world as an alchemist. You're an alchemist. You have the capacity to create anything you wish to create. Even if it starts with just a toast in the morning and adding a little bit of butter on it, you're an alchemist. So be the alchemist of change. Be the alchemist of a better you, and be the alchemist of the love that will bring peace forward and a world together to walk upon Eden that is already here. Don't think that Eden is going to be delivered to you. It's already here. Just open your eyes. And so for this talk on this Monday, your Tuesday, I send lots of love to all the listeners. And once again, like Adrian has said, if you have any questions, any concerns, any voices, any comments you wish us to address, please don't hesitate. It'll be a pleasure to answer each and every one of you. And if we don't get to you in split second, breathe, have a little bit of patience, but we will respond.
Thank you so much. Ciao. Namaste. Beautiful.